folks, and welcome back to the Code Devil tutorials on Python, the programming language. In the previous video we learnt about conditional statements, under which we learnt about if else statement and if elif statement. In this video we learn about nested if statement. Basically a nested if statement is an if statement under another if statement. Let's understand this by an example. Here I have assigned the value 50 to the variable x. Now let's write an if statement first. Here I have written the if statement. Now to make it an nested if statement, I write another if statement under this if statement. So I have written this nested if statement. Here I have assigned the value 50 to the variable x, and I have written a statement that if x is greater than or equal to 45, then you have to do this block of code. The block of code consists print statement which writes your number is greater than 45, and again I have written an if statement under this if statement that if x is equal to 50, then you need to execute this block of code, which consists of print statement in which the computer needs to print your number is 50. So let's see what happens if we execute this code. And now the computer prints that your number is greater than 45 and your number is 50, because it has checked upon the first statement which asks if x is greater than 45, and the second statement that asks if x is equal to 50. So this is what a nested if is. Now let's come to the topic of functions. What is a function? It is a block of code stored for completing a particular task. For example, the function we have been using for quite a time of while is the print function. What does this print function do? It prints statements. So just like that, we'll be learning today about the input function. What is the input function? It takes the input from the user to store it in a variable. Now, how to write the block of code for the input function? Let's see. Suppose I need to store the input from the user in a variable called y. Then I assign it just like a variable. I put the equals to sign, and then I write input and then open and close a parenthesis, and that's it. But when I press enter, suppose I need to store a string in a variable, that the input from the user should be a string, then only should I write input and then open and close a parenthesis. But the user also needs to know what he needs to enter. So in that case, you need to write the statement. Suppose I write enter the name of your favorite fruit, and then if I press enter, let me just open a new file. Here I wrote y is equal to input, and in the bracket I wrote enter the name of your favorite fruit. Now it's been executed, and now I have to write the input. So I write, for example, mango, and then I press enter. So that's it. Why? Because I haven't written that what needs to be what needs to be executed after taking the input from the user. So we'll write that afterwards, but let's discuss that what if we need a numeric value for the input. So we'll write, suppose the variable is t is equal to, that stands for integer here, and then I open a parenthesis and then write input. Then again open a parenthesis in which you write enter, suppose for example, your age, which is obviously a numeric value, and then close the parenthesis for input, and then close the parenthesis for int, which stands for integer, and it's executed as enter your age. Suppose I write 20, and that's it. Int, you can also write float instead of int if you want a floating number as your input. In the previous video we discussed about floating numbers and integers. Floating numbers are decimals, whereas integers are the whole numbers, or suppose like negatives like -3, 3, 4, 5, and like. This means that I can also write the code as O, which is the variable here, is equal to float, and just a second, input so when I press enter, it states enter marks, which I enter as 28.5, which is quite possible, and that's it. So let's write the part of code after this input. What can we do? We can combine conditional statements and the input function to make a particular and effective program. Let's see how to do that. I will now open a new file here so that the program is saved in a way, and I write my code. Here I have stated the variable maths marks, and that is equal to int integer input enter your maths marks, and similarly I have done it for science marks. So now let's combine it with a conditional statement. Here I have written this program as suppose 35 is the passing mark for both your exams, which is maths exam and science exam. So the program goes as the follows. It takes your input for maths marks, and then it takes your input for science marks, and then the following code is executed if maths marks is greater than 35, greater or equal to 35, and science marks is also greater or equal to 35, then it executes that you have passed in both the subjects. Now I have used a nested if statement in this program. I have used another if, that if maths marks is greater than or equal to 90 and science marks is also greater than or equal to 90, then the program executes as you have also secured A grade in both the subjects. And then I've used a final else statement with this if, that else if maths marks or science marks is not greater than or equal to 35, then it prints that you have failed in either one or both the exams. So let's execute it. First we'll save it. Now let's run it. Now enter your maths marks. Suppose I enter 70, and now I enter my science marks. Suppose 80. You have the computer executes. You have passed in both subjects, but since 70 and 80 is not greater than 90 or equal to 90, it doesn't execute that you have also secured an A grade. Now let's see what happens if we enter the values equal to or greater than 90. And now it executes as you have passed in both subjects, you have also secured A grade in both subjects. Now let's see if the values is lesser than 35. And the computer executes, you have failed in either one or both exams. In this way you can create an effective program with your Python skills till you have learned this. That's all for today. Keep on practicing and keep on making more programs yourself at home, and do like and share this video with your friends who are keen with programming. See you in the next video. Tata.